Hello everybody and welcome to Adobe Live. My name is Flynn and I'm joined by the wonderful Tina Victoria Afshar. Hi Tina, how are you?
Hello Flynn, I'm good, how are you?
I'm good. I'm happy to be hanging out with you. Before we start, we'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we are creating and streaming from today and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. Hello everybody in chat. If you're over on YouTube and you want to say hi, you have any questions as we're going along today or on Thursday, jump on over to be.net/live. Say hi as well. It's always great to hear like where you're tuning in from. And we got a little bit of an interactive thing where you get to choose kind of which direction we go a little bit later in the show. But Tina, what's up? How's Melbourne? How's life?
Melbourne is good. Melbourne, is it good? Who knows? But at the moment from my seat, we've got a bit of blue sun, which rarely happens. You've got green leaves. It's lovely. I'm in a good mood. I'm seeing you, Flynn.
Yes.
Things are good.
It's always good to hang out with you. This is a great excuse for us just to hang out. So I'm always glad to see you as well. So we're here today, Tuesday, here in Australia, and Thursday as well. And Tina and I have been chatting since last time you were on about what should we do next. We had a lot of fun last time. We're doing this gradient mesh, which was really cool. I'm sure you saw it as well. There's quite a few people that kind of followed your tutorial and made them themselves and then uploaded. I think Adam was one of those people.
Yes, that was awesome.
It was super cool to see people kind of putting in their own spin on it and playing around. And today will be no different. You can kind of follow along. You can watch it on the replay and follow the steps and do these things yourselves.
I'm excited. And you know what? From last time we did this, I felt as though, it was something that you and I kind of came up together and it was a great idea. This time round, when you emailed to say, let's do this again, I had absolutely no ideas about what we could do, not only for today, but for Thursday as well. And then Flynn came up with this amazing idea, let's animate verbs, which I had not done before, aside from one instance. So I put together this bit of a few examples, courtesy of Flynn's inspiration. But I think it will be fun. And it is a bit like, Design 101 when you animate words or when you play on words and make imagery out of type. So it's going to be a very going back to basics, but with a fun twist to it.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, there's a bit of branding involved in this. I was saying to Tina that the very first design project they ever gave us in graphic design school was whatever. I went to TAFE. And they, not knocking TAFE, I loved it. The idea it was literally this project, but more of a static version. So, come up with a verb, like action word, something like that, and draw it. Like it was literally just sit in class and draw it and come up with ideas to kind of start wrapping your head around, visually communicating a word, which is really cool. And mine was a lowercase e and a little person running along with a hatchet, and it was evil. And mine wasn't the best. People were a lot better at it than I was, but I remember it fondly and going, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I get the basics of this. So, but we're going to do a similar sort of thing, animating verbs. So, visually showing what the word is saying.
It's a lot harder than people think. Because it depends on how literal you want to be about it as well.
Right.
Or how much you want to put your own spin. But I think, because at Shillington, where I teach part of the time, we do similar things, but we don't animate them. We just kind of make them in Illustrator and it's fun. But I can see how with some words, it's a very obvious answer. And then with other words, you're thinking, do I do something that's a bit quirky and give my own spin to it? So it's a hard task to give students, but it's a fun one.
Yeah, nice.
All right. Should we have a look through what the words are?
Yeah, let's do it. So We'll jump over to your desktop.
Oh, yes. Okay,
there you go.
great.
There's my little warning. All right, we're checking over. Here we are in After Effects. We can see static. Let's roll.
All right, beautiful. So, friends, we're going to go through 4 verbs today. Static is one of them. So this is something I did earlier. It kind of like the HBO logo. It kind of moves in and out of focus.
Cool.
Then we'll move into multiply. Zoop. twists around, pops around, boop, in your face. It's very nice, very fun.
Nice.
Then we've got, and it loops. So important to loop. If it doesn't loop, it's not an animation.
Right.
Rule number 1. Okay, then we've got capture. So this one was interesting because it was like I was saying before, like how literal do we want to be with the words? So I thought like, actually, Flynn, you'll appreciate this. I've been I've been reading a lot of fan fiction lately. And so with fantasy fiction, there's always like a fae or a werewolf or something that's like hunting its prey. And the author will always say something like, you know, it looked at its prey before it like leaped. And so when I was creating this, I'm like, well, there's only one thing my brain is thinking about. It's a hot vampire about to leap onto its prey.
Definitely.
So that's the vibe we're going with this one. So that's capture. And then we've got vibrate. And we can choose which ones we want to focus on because we may or may not have time to go through them all.
Oh, cool.
But on Thursday, we'll be doing a bit more of like the kinetic typography. And I just wanted to quickly give a look into this for anybody.
A little preview of this one. Cool.
A little preview.
Wow.
This one's more about, this one has a little bit of code, a little bit of like expression code into it. So that will be a bit fun, but it's all about how to make different elements in your layers react to just one object or one shape. And your layers panel is going to look hectic by the end, but it's fun. You'll feel like a whiz.
That's awesome.
Should we start?
Yes, let's do it.
All right. Okay. I'm just going to prep. All right. Let's start. Let's get into the mode. I reckon we should make our compositions ready for Instagram stories because if we don't upload them onto Instagram, no one's going to know we did this.
Do they exist?
Do they exist? All right. So we're going 1080 by 1920. My frame rate is going to be 24, and that's going to be important because once we start putting in our keyframes, I'm going to be jumping between frames, like specific frames, and if they're in increments of 4, it's easier to look at them. It's a whole thing. And then let's make our background white as well. And that's it. That's the only setup you need to do for now.
Cool.
Okay. All right. So first things first, let's write our word static. I'm using one of my favorite typefaces.
I was about to ask you about that.
Yes. It's Write Grotesque by Pangram. They do beautiful stuff, and it's so affordable as well. I think this one was only $40. They do beautiful work. I'm sure everybody's heard of them. But let's make it nice and big. I've made mine 260 pixels by 270. And just a nice like thick typeface, whichever one that you want to use, make it bold or black. The more thick it is, the better the effect will latch onto it. And then the second thing we want to do is just center align it to your artboard. All right.
Cool.
Let's start.
So you do everything in After Effects, like from scratch. You just build everything from scratch here.
Yeah.
Cool.
And the reason why we do that is because once we add the effects onto it, I don't know, like you could create this in InDesign and then bring in a JPEG, but we actually don't want the effect to latch onto the whole image. We just want it to latch onto the text itself.
Right.
So it's easier to make it live text.
Cool.
You know, last time we spoke, we talked about DIA Studio in New York.
Oh, we did. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And they sometimes make their posters in After Effects because they can make the composition move around and then just randomly pause. And it's got this really beautiful composition that's just been created, and that's just a poster on its own.
Yeah.
So I've started doing a lot more things in After Effects, like not publications or posters, but like actually creating the artwork in there.
Right.
And choosing like a random frame because I don't know, the randomness makes it nice.
I think it's super cool. Yeah. If anyone hasn't seen them, yeah, DIA. Maybe Johanna can share that link in chat. They do incredible work in kinetic typography, and like Nike and Times Square, like taking over like half the billboards and stuff like that, and have it interact with the music and stuff. It's incredible work. So check that out.
It's drill worthy. All right, but that said, we're going to be spending a lot of time in the effects and presets panel. This is my best friend, and I think most of the time when I'm in After Effects, I'm not specifically going in there saying, I'm going to use this specific effect today. I kind of scroll through the entire library that's there, apply different effects until the, I guess, the effect that I want appears. So I don't always know what I'm going to choose, but because I've pre-planned this, we're going to create the static effect. We're going to go for a scatter effect here.
Okay.
And there's two. There's one for a simulation and one to stylize. Choose the stylize scatter and just drag and drop it onto your text layer. And I just want to show you what this looks like on its own. It kind of already gets that static effect the higher you go out. So it's kind of already doing our job for us. And this is going to be a very quick tutorial. All right, what are the notes that I wrote? All right, so we want our grain, which is the second option. We want it to go horizontal. So if I make it horizontal, it looks like this. That just means that the grain is moving in this direction. If we want it to be vertical, obviously it moves up and down, leaving the center parts of the text untouched. Now you can do any way you want to go with. I found that horizontal looks the most like it's a static expression. And then we want our randomness to be turned on. That just means that the pixels of the text that it's choosing isn't specified to be like the top or the bottom of the words. It's just everywhere. And that kind of reflects more of when a static expression happens. So again, if I move this, it feels a little bit more organic.
That's cool.
But we're going to start with 0. Man, my notes are just so hectic on the side here. All right. All right. The reason why we went with 24 frames at the beginning is because we want the frames that we see in our timeline to be increments of 4. So we're going to go to our frame 8, and we're just going to apply a keyframe here for a static amount of 0. So nothing is touching it. It just looks like our beautiful static on its own.
Right.
Then we're going to jump to almost a whole second later, and we're going to amp it up. We're going to make it 500. Woo! Now it feels like something's happening. Then we're going to go for another second later. So we're on 2 seconds 12, and we're going to bring it right back down to 0. And now if we just take a look at it, it starts zoop, and then it goes back to normal.
Right.
But we're not done yet. Because do you know what is the most important rule of motion graphics? You got to apply the easy ease.
Always.
So always the easy ease. So anybody who hasn't used it, you can select all your keyframes and then hover over one, right click, and then under keyframe assistant, select easy ease. Something I learned recently is if you go to your graph editor, and you can see that now with our easy ease applied, it just means that there's like a smooth transition from when it starts to when it ends. It kind of like starts slowly, builds up, and then ends slowly. But the influence is something that we can play with. And what I mean by influence is how quickly you want your action to move and how quickly you want it to stop, or how slowly you want it to begin and how slowly you want it to end. Typically, if your 2 keyframes are within like a second apart, that's a fair duration of time. So you can make the influence higher. So what I mean by that is if I just select my first keyframe and then these little handles pop up, and I move the handle, see how at the bottom it's telling me the percentage of influence. You can take it up to 70, and that means that it will start slower and speed up faster.
Right.
Which is nicer when you've got a bit of time between the 2 distances. Typically 70% influence is a good number. If your 2 keyframes are really close together, like say they're, I don't know, 2 frames apart, that's way too close. It's not enough time for it to speed up slowly and end slowly. It will look a bit jagged, so you want your influence to be lower. Bit of like Ross Geller, you want it to be lower. Yeah. And now because we played around with it, you can kind of see starts and then ends slowly. take a deep breath.
Cool.
But we're not done yet. The last little bit that we want to do, and this will make us feel like we're real motion graphic designers, is we're going to add a bit of code. We're going to add a little bit of an expression. So this expression we can put into the show notes, maybe, if I send it to you, Flynn?
Yeah, you can send it to me. Yeah.
Should I send it to you now or later?
Oh, you can send it to me later. I can see if I can find it. What's it called?
It's just a bounce expression.
Right. I'll find it. We'll get Johanna to see if she can find it. Johanna, go expression hunting. Bounce expression for After Effects.
The reason why we want to do that is if we watch the original, see how it starts, and then there's that little bounce at the end where that little bit of static happens. So it finishes, and then you get like that little feedback at the end that it's not quite done yet. Okay. We want to do that, but we don't want to manually do it. We want After Effects to do it for us. So I'm going to add an expression by first. Now, when I say I'm not a motion graphic designer, I mean that I don't know the reasons for why I do things. I just do them, or I'm being told to do them. And so I know one of the rules, if you want to add an expression or a bounce expression to your keyframes, the last keyframe can't have an easy ease. So to just remove my easy ease from it, I just have to go Command and click, and then that easy ease effect is taken off. If you've got easy ease on the last keyframe, it doesn't work. Your expression doesn't take. I don't even know if that's the right description for it. But where we put our expressions is just by, and I might Command Z so we can do it again together. If you click and hold down Option and click on the little clock next to scatter amount, it'll open up this little window, and just Command and paste, or copy and paste the expression in there. This is our bounce expression. Again, I don't know a whole lot about it, but what it does is that it adds amplification, frequency, and a bit of decay, or delay in other words, to your movement, which is awesome. It does a lot of what we would have to do with keyframes on our own. And the reason why I've done that is because I want my text to kind of bounce a little bit at the end. Oh no, it hasn't done anything, has it? Wait. No, okay, that's fine. It's fine. Everybody breathe. The reason for that is I need to amplify it up. So we want to make our amplification, which I think it is when, hang on, I've got it in my notes somewhere. I think amplification is pretty much like the visual of what we see, like how much we get shown. Frequency is how often we get that little static moving around.
Makes sense.
And decay, God knows what decay is. Who knows? Somebody in chat want to let us know. I don't know. But I'm going to move up my amplification to 40 because I want it to really get static. And then we're going to make the frequency about maybe 10 and see how that looks. A lot of motion design is just testing and seeing what works. Like a
bit of trial and error.
Exactly. There we go. That did it. So it kind of zoom and then like a little bit at the end. So anyway, I'm going to let everybody play with that and decide what amplification they want to use.
That's cool.
But it was just one effect, and we got that nice static HBO look and feel to it right before Game of Thrones starts to play. God, I miss that.
Oh yeah, it's the sound that goes with that.
Yeah. Yes. I think you've nailed it. That was it. All right, should we do multiply now?
Let's do it.
All right. So
sorry, before we move on to that, we do have a question. Do you have a favorite or least favorite word to animate? Did you try this with any words and go, nah, that doesn't work?
Yeah, I did. What was it? I think I wrote it down somewhere. Oh, I really wanted to do something like devour. Like I wanted to say like if the word could like eat itself. I think the more ambitious you are with the words, the more you're like, that looks really good in my brain, but I can't translate that. There are a few words that are a bit difficult.
Yeah.
That's why I thought I'm going to pre-plan this and decide which verbs I'm going to animate, because if I left it up to us to choose on the day, I would have no idea how to do them.
Yeah. Yeah. And as you said, it's a lot of trial and error, right? So we might just end up with a lot of error during the trial, and then we kind of get to the end and we're kind of halfway get there. So yeah, I get that.
Yeah. That should be on my resume. It's trial and error, but just mostly error.
But mostly error, yeah.
Mostly error. Any other questions?
That's it for now. But yeah, let us know if you have any questions as we're going along. Remember, the chat that we're using today is be.net/live. So jump on over there and say hi. Multiply. What's this going to be?
Okay, let's see. It twists, turns, pops back up, and jumps into place.
This is really cool, like the depth, like how it zooms out. And looks like there's so much going on.
This one makes my heart go pitter-patter because it was a mistake initially, but a mistake that worked.
Nice.
And it uses a lot of motion graphic principles. It's got a bit of anticipation. So which is like a little small action to indicate a big action is about to happen.
Right. And
there's a bit of follow through as well, which is when an action is about to end and it does like a little bit more of a movement and then it properly ends. It's kind of like, imagine you're about to jump, and right before like you jump, you kind of like kneel. What's the word I'm looking for? Like you kind of
crouch,
like crouch, squat, and then and then you leap up. So we're going to be doing a bit of squatting. All right. So with multiply, same setup. We're going Instagram story. We put a white background. I'm going to use the same typeface again because it's our favorite. Nice. Oh, I can't do a typo this time. Multiply. All right. Phew.
I love that in your post you spelt it wrong in the experimentation, and then posted it, and you're like, "Yep, I know it's spelled incorrectly, but I can't remember what you said exactly." But you're just like, "I'm just moving on. I'm not going to fix it."
Done.
Yeah, I loved it. I was like, totally.
My friend Amber, who I think is watching, she messaged me and said, "Tina, it looks great, but there's a typo." And at that point in the evening, I had such little shits to give that I just thought, fantastic, beautiful.
Yeah.
It's exactly what I wanted. I don't know. After you've done 6 lockdowns, how much of a toss can you really give anymore?
Fair enough.
I'm just a little bit like, this is me. All right, so we've got our multiply. Now this is this effect we're going to use, I have no idea how to pronounce. It's called cowsticks. Do you know how to pronounce it, Flynn?
I would guess caustics, but
you make it
we
fancy.
could all be wrong. Yeah. Just add a little bit of French to it. Caustics. I have no idea.
Well, I think the way that I'm using it may not be the correct way, because I think this effect is mostly used if you want to create like a water surface or like sky, or it's a materialist or an elemental effect to your design. I'm not using it for that reason. I'm going to use it for the reason that I want it to just, I guess, multiply, for want of better words, my text. So when you open it up, just ignore water, ignore sky. We're just going to focus on bottom. Actually, no, don't ignore water. Open that one up, because we don't want our surface color to be blue, because again, this is mostly for elemental animation. So just make it white so we can go back to basics. Make your surface opacity 0 as well, so that your text goes back to being black, and then close water.
So that's like on default. It's already defaulted to adding blue, and kind of looks like it's an opacity there or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, thank God you're here to explain all the stuff that
I'm just guessing my way
rushing
through.
Over.
Trial and error.
Trial and error, baby. Okay, so now that we've got this, what do my notes say? My notes tell me that I'm going to start with my first keyframe at the 1 second mark. And I'm going to make my scaling 0, which it is automatically, and just add a keyframe there. Maybe I should open this up. Okay. And then I'm just going to move one more keyframe to the right to 104, and I'm going to make this 0.5. So now if I just show you, if we reduce the scaling, we can see the different layers that this effect creates.
So that's just automatically duplicated it like to a crazy amount? Okay, cool.
Yeah, it does the hard work for us.
Nice.
But it's up to us how we make it look good. So that's what we're going to do.
It's our job.
That's why we're here. Okay, so we've got, so to reiterate, at 1 second mark, we've left it at its default, which is just 1. And then at 104, we're bringing it down to 0.500. And then we're going to jump across a whole second later to 204. And now we're really going to get fun with it. We're going to go with 0.010. And it's just multiplied a quadrillion times. And if you watch how that animates, it goes... Oh, that's really slow. That just ruined my sound effect. Anyway, you can see... Bit of a buffer.
Yeah. I think it was rendering at the same time.
Yeah. But it kind of like zooms out. It's kind of like imagining you are just like a little ant in the world and this kind of zooms out into space. But that looks great. That's awesome. But we're not done. We want to go almost a second and a half later to 4 second mark. And we want to now bring it right back down to Earth and go -1.00. And now it's upside down because when it goes into the negatives, it switches around.
Cool.
And the reason why I've done this is because we want this cool thing to happen where if we go back to the original, she kind of like zooms out, twists about, and then comes back upside down. And the reason why we're doing that is because we want to feel as though the text has really actually twisted to being upside down. And it's all about creating this effect of realism. Even though we've clearly manipulated this text, we still want it to feel like it's a realistic demonstration of what might happen if your words multiplied.
Yeah, very cool.
So now that it's upside down, we want to go to 2 frames later to the right and scale it back to 1. So it's gone back to what it originally was. And if we watch this from the start, she goes zoop, and then slowly renders like a snail, comes to the front, and then jumps. I'm going to play that again because we just missed the good part. Zooms back, comes to the front, jumps, and it's back to being, there's a little bit of a flip. It's fun, it's good. But we're still not done. We're going to do the ease, our favorite thing.
Of course.
Always. And now we can see a little bit of what I was talking about earlier.
This graph is quite different to what the other one started out at, right? It's very different.
Yes, exactly. This second animation has a very different graph now because we've got multiple different keyframes and the different distances apart. And it takes a bit of, not patience, but just, or maybe it is a bit of patience, to kind of like treat each graph the way that it needs to be treated. So with this one, we've got 2 keyframes that are very close with one another. So the influence that the easy ease has applied may be too much. So I kind of want to reduce my influence to maybe 15, meaning I don't want it to speed up and slow down too quickly. I want it to be a bit smoother. So we have to do a bit of surgery. But then with these 2 keyframes, they're so far apart from each other. That's awesome. I can make it a really large influence. So holding down shift, I'm going to slide this handle across until I hit maybe the 75 mark. Doesn't have to be exact. And do the same on the other side. And then I'm just going to do this across here. Have you played a lot with the easy ease, Flinny?
Yeah, I have a bit. This is the graph editor, right? Used to play around with this quite a lot. I don't do as much After Effects as I used to, especially not this kind of level, like affecting kind of the speed or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty familiar, I think, to like even to people who like even are just familiar with like like Illustrator and stuff like that, like sure you have a timeline, but really you're just trying to change the little arms in the way that you want to go. And again, like as you were saying before, a bit of trial and error. Once you start, tweaking a little bit and then watching it again, then you go, oh, okay, hang on. Okay, so I did that. And then you pull it the other way and you go back and you immediately start kind of understanding like how you're influencing the pace and the world. It doesn't take as long as you would think to kind of pick up the graph.
That's it, exactly. It's not as intimidating as it looks, but it is a lot of I've just tweaked one thing, let me go see how that looks, come back
Yes.
to it. It's like in like me making like easier curves in Illustrator.
Right.
And you're trying to like make it the nice perfect curvature. You just gotta test it out. But now that I've played around, I've added my easy ease, I played around with the influence. I'm probably gonna have to let this render again. Oh my goodness. But the point is that it's now much smoother. Right,
and rendered.
Zoop. Oh, easy ease, the things it does to my heart. I
Very
love it.
Cool.
But we're not done, because now we're going to add that 12. Now we're going to make it kind of like twist, and like it's going through some feelings as it's multiplying. So the effect we're going to add on is called twirl, and it's under the distort library. So add that onto your multiply. Close up caustics, open up twirl, and I'm going to show you what it looks like if I just change. It just looks a bit like this.
Oh, cool.
Which is really fun. You can sometimes I rather not warp things in Illustrator and warp them in After Effects, which I know is wrong, but
there's no wrong.
There is no wrong. But I feel as though there's more options with After Effects, and you can kind of trust it to create a random thing, and it's still gonna look good. Anyway, I will die on this hill that I love After Effects more than Illustrator.
Wow, controversial. No, but it's very cool. Like ever since I first sort of saw that DIA thing, and I realized we're bringing that up in multiple streams now and everything, but ever since I saw that, it was like an epiphany to me, because they were kind of talking about like how they would do their branding, create their static artwork, and then go, cool, how do I now we need to get into After Effects, and even just their process. They were talking about that, and then when they had their little epiphany where they were like, what if we just get really good at doing everything in After Effects and then and reverse engineering it the other way? And then they found that they were just doing like just about everything. Like they were like 99% of our work is After Effects. And we'll only
100%.
like, yeah. And it was quite interesting because so much of their output ended up being motion. It just made more sense. They could just spend more time in After Effects, do a lot of their things natively there. And I think they were talking about the only time they ever really pulled anything out into another app was if they had to create like necessarily like a static logo or like a brand guideline for other designers who use Illustrator or InDesign or something like that. So it was very interesting to hear about that, and I was kind of like, oh my gosh, that sounds like a really good idea.
It is an epiphany, because can you just imagine if you wanted to make like a really warped logo, like you just like done.
You're done.
And then if you wanted to take that and make it a static logo, just export that baby, image trace in Illustrator, you're done.
It's done.
Yeah, it takes all the headache away. Gosh, I love them. I think they're amazing, DIA. But back to multiply. To get this twisty action going on, we're going to go to the 1 second mark, and we're going to keep our twirl angle at 0. So add a keyframe there. And then what have I said? I want to go I'm just going to match what I've done before with caustics in terms of where I've set my keyframes, so that there's a nice consistency and relationship between them. So at the 104 point, I want to go -10. So the reason why I've done this, do I want to do this? I do want to do this. Okay, so the reason why I want to do this is I want to build up a little bit of anticipation. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that in just 1 second because we're going to add one more keyframe so that you can kind of get what I mean by it. Let's add one more angle, but at plus 55. All right. So what I mean by anticipation is I want multiply to twist left before it twists right. So it's kind of like this feeling of an action is about to occur before a really big action happens. And now it's really twisting up, it's stretching its back. And we're going to go 2 more keyframes to the right and make it twist just that little bit more, like you're getting up in the morning, you got a little bit more of your back to twist. And then we're going to jump to 3 seconds 20. And multiply is looking like it's really cracking its back there.
Oh yeah, it's like a yoga move.
Oh, it's a bit of a downward dog? I don't know.
That's the only one I do know.
Yeah. It's downward dog. I believe that's what this is. Yeah. Right. And then negative 70, because we want it to, it's been twisting in this direction the whole time, but we want it to snap back and go the other direction. So now we're at negative 70, but it needs to come home. So we go back to our very last keyframe and make it 0 again. So let's just take a look at how that looks. Twisting, it's coming around, and then bam, it sits in the right spot. I try and kind of, as realistic as it can be to what an actual human might do, is I find it's kind of nicer for your animations. But
that's a good way. That's a really good way to think about it. Like trying to be, well, if you kind of go this way and then you kind of go that way and then back.
Yes. Especially, I think those little moments when, say, like you twist an object to go, I don't know, 90 degrees, and then you push it just that little bit more so it's 95, because that's what we do in reality, don't we? Like we'll twist and then we'll do just a little bit more and then we'll jump around.
Yeah. It's true.
So I think those moments help. I'm going to, again, just play with my expressions one more time, but maybe while I do this, could we ask chat if we should do capture or vibrate next?
Oh yeah, so we have a choice of capture or vibrate for our next one. So let us know, chat, which one we should do, because it's choose your own adventure. Do you ever read those books?
I love when Goosebumps did choose your own adventure.
Yeah, that was cool.
I died.
Yeah,
that was so good.
It's like worlds colliding. There's also another question. I think it is Amber. Can you export it as vector at all? Yeah, like I think there's definitely plugins that you can use for After Effects to export vector artwork. I don't know if you know the answer to that. I should, the one working for Adobe, but I've used a plugin before to export assets from After Effects, like videos that I've received, and then I downloaded a plugin to do it.
You know, it's the first I'm hearing about plugins, and I should have Googled that. The way that I normally do it is I go into composition, save frame as, and I'll export it as a Photoshop, but it'll just export it as if it's an image. So then I have to live trace in Illustrator to get, you know, all the elements I want. So if there's a plugin, that would be a lifesaver.
Yeah, I've done it before. I'll find it. I might still have it installed somewhere on a computer in a box somewhere, probably. I'll find it.
Good question, Amber.
Yeah, it is a good question.
Okay, so let's just see what our Easy Ease has done. It's twisting, it's coming around, it's popping into place. But the last thing, we want that bounce. We want it to look like this at the end. So it's twisted, it's coming around, and then boing, it does that little feeling. And again, we're going to use that beautiful expression that I don't know if Johanna has found yet, but I will send it to Flynn so everybody has it. And where we're going to add it is, remember the last keyframe, we don't want it to be an Easy Ease. We just want it to be a regular old keyframe. But we want to go Option, click on Angle, Command V, the expression. So now it sits in there. And if we watch how that looks now, turns, zoom, boing.
Nice.
That boing?
It boinged, I think.
Yeah.
So it kind of does the kind of wobble in place.
Yes. the wobble in place. That's the technical term. That's it. All right, so that's multiply done. And again, these are just like the values and the positioning that I've chosen to place for this particular animation, but trial and error, so test your own, make it twist even more, make it twist even less, whatever kind of character you want to give the word. But before we move on to the next one, capture or vibrate, did we have a consensus?
Oh, we did. Let me check. I think it's capture. I'll give Johanna a second to let me know, but it looks like capture is winning out.
Oh, we're doing that vampire leaping for its prey. Flint.
The handsome vampire leaping. You've got to remember, that's critically important, right?
Oh my God. So I'm on TikTok a lot more than I should be, but there's a section of TikTok called Book Talk where it's just all about books.
Okay.
And there's this running joke that if you're reading a fantasy fiction book and the main character sees a guy with blonde hair, you know he's not the lead. You know he's not the main love interest, because as soon as a guy with brown hair and blue eyes and like a morally grey character walks in, you're like, that's the guy. Love interest. That's it.
What about my poor blonde friends? What's wrong with the blonde guys? They're just never ends up being
not morally grey.
All right. They're either too straighty 180 or they're straight up evil or they're
exactly.
All right.
We need enemy to lovers.
Okay.
We don't want friends to lovers.
There's no story. Okay, I get it. There's no hero story. Okay.
We love blondes.
They didn't get to change the guy, right? You can't change him. It's like already perfect.
Yeah, there's nothing to fix. I want to fix the guy.
I want to fix something.
Oh God, it's so good though. I'm loving my life right now.
That's great. I love it.
Okay, so we're doing capture?
We're doing capture. Apologies. Yeah, I was distracted by
a tall, dark, and handsome.
Yeah.
So was I.
Never thought I'd say that, but yeah, I was completely enthralled. So we've got about 10 minutes as well, so I'll let you know that.
Oh, okay.
So we should move on.
Okay, we should.
Yeah.
That's fine, because this one's going to be really quick. This one is just one effect. So we'll open up our next composition, and now I feel like I'm just going to rush through this one. But that's okay. We're going to write capture. Make sure it's center aligned to your composition. And in our effects panel, we're going to use something I've never used before, and it's called optics compensation. I don't know what else you would use it for, but we're going to apply it to here. And this was one of those experiences where I was just applying different effects, seeing what they did, and then sticking to one that I felt worked. So this one was a complete surprise. But what we're going to do is we're going to change up some of these settings a little bit. We're going to tick reverse lens distortion up the top here. We're going to change the orientation to vertical, and our resize is going to be max 2x. I don't know what that does, but it worked when I
cool.
when I started playing with it.
That's the best thing about this stuff, is probably like optics compensation sounds like something for film, like, or something to, from the film world. And I love that there's so many like filters and things you can do, expressions as well, that might be created for one purpose, but then you apply them to typography, or like you create a very colorful kind of background, and suddenly you get this really interesting effect when you mash everything together. It's really cool.
That's it. That's why we love After Effects. She gives and she gives.
She gives.
Okay, so this is only going to be, I think, 4 keyframes we're going to do, maybe a little bit less, but at 0.16 frames, we're just going to, our field of view, which is the top one, we're just going to leave it at 0, and then we're going to jump to the 2-second mark and ramp it up to 180, and now we've got a black screen. But what happened in between that time is that our letters began to jump forward, and poof.
Oh, that's so cool. It's so easy to add, but it's like such a crazy effect.
She gives and she gives.
You told me already. I should have known. Should have known that was coming.
And then But what we're going to do now is we're going to build that little bit of anticipation again. So what I mean by that is I want capture to move back just a little bit before it leaps forward.
Oh, cool.
So we're going to go to just one frame to the left, and I'm going to make it 45, maybe. And maybe just zoom in a little bit so we can see what it's doing. So between this time, see how it just kind of like moves forward just a little bit?
Oh yeah, it's pretty subtle, but yeah.
Very subtle, but we just need that little bit of, you can even make it 60 so it's a bit more obvious. But we just need this feeling like a small action is happening before a bigger action is happening. Then we're going to go back to the 2-second mark. And what did I say here? I said we'll leave ourselves in the dark for 1 second. So it's as if it's captured its prey. And we'll be in the black. And then we'll jump to 3:12 and it's going to leap back. So it's captured, it's gotten ready to leap, it's leapt, it's capturing, and then it's coming back to its starting position.
Very cool. And again, you're thinking about it like it actually literally doing something, like some sort of thing in nature or some sort of action that exists, and then applying it to the keyframes, which I really, really like. It's really cool.
I think unless that's, what am I trying to say? Words. I think one of the things I learned when I did like a little motion design course was you've got to think about it as if it's as close to reality as it can get, and give like personality or give a character to it. And then you'll know more yourself how you want to animate it and what decisions or motion graphic decisions to make. It could also be the amount of fantasy fiction I've written and I just want to fuse it into my work. Okay, and then the last thing we're going to do, because it's jumped back into place, after watching the Olympics, we know that people rarely just jump into place and leave it at that. They kind of like wobble a little bit.
Right.
So we just want to make this 45. So it's kind of like jumped into place and then kind of leaps forward a little bit as it's settling back in.
Cool.
And then zoop, captured, whoop, comes like into place.
Cool.
And I don't know how we're going with time, but typically we would add our easy in, we might add our bounce expression to give it a little bit more life to it. But this one is the most easiest, and it was just that trial and error, finding the right effect that gave us the movement that we wanted.
Oh, very cool.
How are we going with time?
We've got a couple of minutes left. Got about three or 4 minutes left.
Okay.
So we can do that. But we also just on our conversations about blondes. So Joanna says blondes are the golden retrievers, which I thought was interesting. Oh. So what would the brunettes be then?
Brunettes are the hawk. They're the ones that are up in the sky,
right?
Watching the golden retriever, thinking, "You happy little fool." Unless she means like what breed of dogs they are.
Yeah, I'm asking what would the breed of dog be if the blondes are the golden retrievers.
Would they just be, what's like a wolf version of a dog?
Like a border collie?
No, border collies are too happy.
That's true.
Maybe they're just like a husky, but a black husky. No, they're happy too. I don't know, Johanna, that's a hard question.
It's a good question. Coming with the hard questions right at the end.
Yeah. Oh, I'll message her on Instagram later and maybe they're a Great Dane. Oh, who knows? Who knows?
Ridgeback.
What do you reckon? Yeah.
Maybe Ridgeback. But yeah, cool. That does pretty much bring us to time. But we have a couple of minutes left, so I thought maybe you could preview the Thursday session again, because you have it there and it's very cool. So we'll be chatting about, Johanna said husky in chat. So yeah, a little bit of kinetic typography, which is super cool. I admit I've never touched kinetic typography, but I'm always like amazed at it. And anytime I sort of see it on Instagram or anything like that, I always it really gets my attention a lot. I don't know if it's just me. I don't know if it's a graphic designery kind of thing, but like even more so than video clips or music videos or anything, I'm often kind of watching it, just kind of figure out what's going on. So I'm very interested in Thursday's session. You're going to teach me a lot.
Oh, it's a pressure. There's pressure there. I think I think it's really fun too. This is one of my first times exploring it, but how satisfying is it when you see something and then you learn how to create it? So hopefully we can have that satisfaction together. But we'll do this on Thursday. If we've got some time, maybe we can revisit Vibrate, which was this one here, which is still kind of like kinetic typography, maybe.
Yeah, it's pretty, yep.
I don't know. But yeah, I'm excited for Thursday as well and to go through it.
Oh, very cool. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks, Tina. Thanks for hanging out with us again.
Oh, thank you for having me. This has been fun.
It's always fun hanging out with you. A good excuse for us to hang out, which is great. Thanks everyone in chat and those of you watching on demand. We'll be back with part 2, hanging out with Tina Victoria Afshar on Thursday, doing kinetic typography.
I can't wait. I'm excited.
I'll see you then. Okay. Bye.
Bye, everyone.